Salve discipoli. This is a video on gender and number of perfect passive system verbs because this is something that gives people trouble when to change the ending of the first word. So we're going to talk all about that today, and that's the only thing we're going to talk about. So hopefully this won't take me more than 10 minutes. So let's just review how to find these verbs. Amo, amare, amawi, amatos is our dictionary entry for the verb to love. Now, if we want to form the perfect passive of this verb, we're going to take the fourth principal part, amatos, and that'll be my first word. So here, my example, I used amati, and I will be explaining why throughout this video. And then I decided that I wanted it to be they as the subject, so I put sunt. And in order for this verb to match the subject, the first word has to have a different ending. So they must be referring to a group of men or a group of men and women, because if there's ever a group of men and women, the men win in grammar. So it becomes masculine. So this is a masculine ending, and it's also plural because it's they. There's more than one person as the subject. So masculine plural, and if you go to masculine plural, there it is. So we're going to spend the rest of the video really breaking that apart and how we got that. So first thing is I want to tell you how this fourth principal part functions. If you look at it, amatos there, it's pretty deceiving. Amatos really means this whole chart. Amatos, the fourth principal part, could take on any of these 30 forms right here because it functions as a first, second declension adjective. So you'll notice this chart, it does have the amat stem on it, but these endings, us, e, o, e, orm, is, os, is, I, I, arm, is, as, is, e, o, orm, is, a, is. These are all your normal adjective endings. So this fourth principal part, it is part of a verb, but it's functioning as an adjective in terms of the grammar. Now, when we go to form these perfect system verbs, perfect passive, sorry, we need the two words, as we've seen in the last couple videos. But we will only be taking from this chart the parts that are highlighted in red because this verb only needs to match its subject, right? And the subject is your nominative. We don't need genitive. We aren't matching to anything but the subject. So we can only possibly have the forms that are highlighted here. It can only be amatos, amata, amatum in the singular, amati, amatai, amata, again, in the plural. So that depends on your gender. So this portion of your verb study is different in only one way. Now you have your verbs matching in number, as always, but also gender. So your verb must match your subject in gender and number, which sounds pretty similar to an adjective. But I'm going to say that one more time. This is the most important part of what we're trying to do today. And this is the fact that gives us a reason to have this video. Perfect passive system verbs, such as amati sunt, must match their subject in gender and number. Okay, so I have another chart, but I want to totally 100% explain the chart before you freak out. Okay, so there's a lot of colors going on. Whoa, look at that. All right, so I gave you some forms of amatos sum. Notice that I used just the perfect tense here. So I have sum ss, sum ss to sunt. That should sound familiar from the last video. If not, please watch that video again. They're going to be there forever. So watch that again as you're studying and working on this. So I gave you all of the possible form choices for each of these different persons. Person being I, you, he, she, it, we, y'all, and they. Okay, that's what I mean by person. The person that's doing the action. Okay, so let's focus on the first person. These are all the I forms that you can possibly have for the perfect passive. You could have amatos sum, or you could have amata sum. There is no neuter. And notice my colors go masculine for blue, feminine for pink, and then the neuter I put in is yellow. So when to choose the masculine os ending over the feminine a ending. That's what we're looking at in this whole row. Okay, so when to choose masculine. When I is masculine. So let's say Tiberius is talking and he wants to say, I have been loved by all the members of Latin Club, right? So I have been loved. If Tiberius is talking, I is masculine. He is a masculine person, right? um, so we're going to choose amatos sum for Tiberius. Now, when to use the feminine? Pretty straightforward in that it's pretty much the same. When I is feminine. So let's say Aula is talking, our vice president for Latin Club this year. She might want to say, I have been loved by all the members of Latin Club as well. So I have been loved. If Aula is saying it, she wants to choose the feminine form, amata sum. There cannot be a neuter because no matter what, no matter how many surgeries, horrible roofing accidents, or snipping occurs, you will never use the neuter for I. Okay, at one time you were some gender, okay, so you can't be neuter. So you can never have a neuter in the first person in that I form. Okay. Now let's go to the U forms. The only possible ones are amatos s and amata s. Okay, pretty much the same as the one before it, the I forms. So let's go over here. When to use masculine? When you are masculine. If you want to say you're talking to Tiberius and you want to say you have been loved by all the members of Latin Club. You have been loved when talking to Tiberius. We'll use an us ending, that masculine form. Let's say we're talking to Aula. Okay, it's the same thing. When you are feminine, the you in the sentence. So somebody walks up to Aula and says, you have been loved by all the members of Latin Club as well. You want to use amata s. You have been loved. So it depends on who you're talking to in the you forms. Now let's go to the third principal part, or third person. We have amatos est, amata est, or you could choose amatum est. Neuter finally makes an appearance in third person singular. So we want to use the masculine when the subject is he, or when you're referring to a masculine noun. So amatos est, Tiberius has been loved. Or you can say the horse has been loved. Horse is a masculine noun. You want to use amatos. Same thing with amata when the subject is she or a feminine noun. So Aula has been loved. Amata est. Or we could have just the girl has been loved, a feminine noun. Or let me think of an inanimate object. The pila has been loved. The ball has been loved, or something. That sounded weird. But let's say we're talking about the neuter. Finally, we see a neuter. The subject is a neuter noun. So um, the building has been loved. Edificium, it's a neuter noun. The building has been loved. You want to use the so that it matches that subject. The plurals are exactly the same, except they look a tiny bit different because if we go back up to our chart here, these red ones in the plural, the endings look different. But the reason you're choosing the masculine and the feminine remains the same. Okay, so let's see, your direction for the end today is I would like you to decide which form to use if you want to translate this sentence to Latin. Okay. I want you to use the sentence, Straw has been loved for her whole teaching career. So the has been loved part. Which form do you want to use out of all of these forms? Straw has been loved. Give me just the two-word format for the has been loved part, but make it match straw. Okay? Straw has been loved. That's all I have for you. Hopefully you can see how we're using these endings now. But let me know if you have any questions as always. Do that last instruction. Straw has been loved. Which form would you use? Straw out.